Good morning and welcome to today's webinar, Back to School Without the Integration. Just a few housekeeping rules. You are on mute just to avoid any disruption. If you have any questions throughout this webinar or after, there is a question section where you can type in the questions and Danny will answer them towards the end as well. Right, I'm going to hand you over to Danny.
Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Danny Nuttall. I'm the incredibly handsome chap at the bottom right hand side, and it's my job today to walk you through this presentation and basically just make you familiar with the end of year, start of year processes when you're not using an integration. Okay, so when we're doing things a little bit more manually. The agenda for this session, okay, so first of all we'll look at how end of year rollover works, so how that looks, who should be involved in that end of year rollover, so who's responsible for what, removing old users from the platform and importing new users into the platform. We'll look at course archiving and course creation. We'll look at how we get those new users onto the courses, so adding new users to a course, and then finally we'll look at some considerations when you're creating new courses. So first up, let's look at how end of year rollover works. So first of all, we need to look at archiving users and courses. Okay, so this is very much a case of clear out the old. The first thing we need to do is we need to delete or archive our leavers from the platform. Now this can be students or staff, so it's basically anybody that's left us. It's our job now to clear those out, and we'll show you how to do that. It'll also be how we delete or archive old courses. Okay, so any courses that are older that we're not going to use, that were there for the last academic year, we'll look at how we delete or how we archive those. Okay, and there is a difference obviously here. There's a decision to make between do we delete or do we archive. Okay, and we'll come to that in just a second. The next step there is updating our hierarchy. So once we've got rid of our old learners and our old staff, we then come to create new hierarchy folders. Okay, so new folders for our new people to come into, and we will transfer the learners from the old hierarchy folder group, so from the last academic year, onto the new hierarchy folder group that we'll create, which will be for the new academic year. We have a particular structure that we will use in this presentation. Hopefully you'll be able to translate it into what you currently do, because everybody does this a little bit different, but we'll go through all that, so don't worry. And if by the end you're still a bit unsure, you can always contact support or your account manager and we'll help you through it. Okay, so finally, creating new users and courses. So now we're bringing in the new, and we can create new courses from templates or from our old course. Okay, so we'll look at that. We'll look at the benefits there. We'll add new users to the platform, and then we'll link those users to the courses. Okay, so what we're saying here is, do we delete or archive? If we delete, we save space, but if we archive, we save grades. Okay, so that's a decision we have to make. Do we need to maintain grades, in which case we have to archive, or do we not need to maintain grades, in which case we can delete and save ourselves some storage space along the way? Okie doke. So we first archive out with the old, we then update our hierarchy, we then create the new. Pretty simple, 3 steps so far. So what we're going to look at here, just before we jump into these, is who's sort of the ideal organization to be doing this manually. Okay, so we have 2 options. We have the manual way of doing it, which is what we're looking at here today, and we've got what we call an integration way of doing it, which basically populates these things automatically from our data systems. Now, if you do want to look at something like that, there is another webinar on that, so you can check out our YouTube channel or contact your account manager and ask them for the slides. In this case though, we'll look at our ideal organizations. So our ideal organisations for a manual approach are basically primary and junior schools. Okay, so particularly junior schools that may be of an average size rather than the larger ones. Organisations with a single building or a single site. Organisations with little or no IT support, or indeed using external support. And the reason for that is basically with integrations, we kind of need somebody on site to talk to when we're setting up an integration. Okay, so if we don't have that body on site, it is much better and far easier to go down the manual approach. And it's actually much quicker as well, most of the time. Organizations with less than 100 learners. Okay, because less than 100 learners, you can just handle them individually. It's not a big problem. So who should consider having an integration? Okay, and this is pretty much the opposite. Organizations with more than 3,000 learners should look at integration. Organizations with dedicated data and IT support people should consider an integration. And organizations with multiple sites. Okay, so again, we're talking about these organizations that deal with a lot of learners over a bigger area and have people on site that can speak with us, that we can work with to get these integrations up and running. And we're not sort of having to, go through a middleman, a middle person, or go through a few phone calls or a roundabout way of who's responsible for what. So when it comes to integrations, people on site, far better. But we would say consider if an integration would be cost effective to you. Okay, so if you do want an integration, you're more than welcome. We're quite happy to support you in that, but just make sure that it is going to be cost effective and it's the right way to go for your organization. Okay, so the basic differences: manual integration. So what we're doing here today, we're looking at manually creating users or using a CSV file to upload users. We're going to manually handle the hierarchy management, which is basically a folder structure for our people to drop into, and manual creation of courses. Now, if it was an integration, you would get automatic provisioning of users and automatic provisioning of courses and hierarchy as well. Now, that can be really good, it can save you a lot of time, but it can also be a bad thing because the hierarchy is then very strict. You're not able to play with it as much. Okay, so if we are doing it manually at the moment, I would recommend continuing, but if you do have a lot of users and you do have that area to cover, then speak to your key account manager or support team about an integration, and let's just weigh it up and consider the costs. Who should be involved? Really easy. First of all, we need an organizational lead. Okay, so the person at your organization that's going to be responsible for planning out the back to school process with the itslearning key account manager and consultant. Okay, so that member of the senior leadership team who's responsible for end of year, start of year on the VLE. The itslearning key account manager will be responsible for identifying the best back to school process. See if that's spelled right. The best back to school process with the organisation lead and the itslearning consultant. Okay, so what they will do is they'll speak to you. They'll get the process right for you for your organisation, and if we need a consultant, they will bring them in. Okay, so it's the account manager's job to identify any problems or any issues and bring in the itslearning consultants when they're needed. Okay, and if they're needed. And then once they are brought in, it's the itslearning consultant's responsibility to support the key account manager and the organisational lead with training, advice, or supportive services. Okay, so it's likely that you're not going to need this. You should be able to get that back to school process sorted, especially using this this webinar resource that we're doing for you here. But if there is anything a little bit tricky, we'll bring in the consultants and they can support us all the way. Okay, so I hope that makes sense there. So now we're on to removing our old users. So first of all, we have to get our hierarchy structure ready for users to be progressed or enrolled in the new year. Okay, so we've got a standard hierarchy structure in front of us here. We can see that to get to that, we need a system admin or an administrator to go to the admin menu at the top menu bar and click on hierarchy, which is the symbol of the little house. We can see then on the right hand side that we need to create our folder structure. So here we've got 2021, which is our academic year 2020 to 2021, and we can click on add, and then we just need to type our new academic year 2021 to 2022, click save, and we've got a folder there to put our users in for the new academic year. Now we can start adding our subfolders. Okay, so we can go all the way down to group level when we're doing this. Okay, so I'm just adding here a year 2, we'll add a year 3, and we'll just make sure that we go all the way up here, up to year 6, because then we can move our progressing learners. So people that are progressing from year 5 to year 6, we can do those progressing learners, and the learners that are being enrolled as it's their first time at school, we can put straight into year 1. We'd need there, I guess, our reception class or however we do it. Okay, and then within the years we can put our groups. So if your school uses different groups, in this case I'm basing them off trees, so elm, birch, oak, but you may use other things. So you may use Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, you may use blue, red, green. Whatever you use, you can add your groups into there, and then you can put your learners into those groups, as we will show you a little bit later in this presentation. Okay, so we're literally just adding, creating a name and clicking save. Really simple. Okay, so now we're going to look at removing the leavers from our site. Okay, so these can be either staff members or students. It works the same way for both. And what we need to do is go up to the admin menu on the top menu bar, click on user and access rights, which is the little blue silhouette, and then we'll see this window to our right, and by clicking on find hierarchy, we'll be able to see first of all the hierarchy we've just created at the bottom. We're going to go into last year, we're going to select year 6, these will be our leavers. And once we've selected year 6, we can press OK. Now from here, we need to tick the student box because we just want to search for students, and then we hit search. Now obviously if we wanted to search for staff, we'd tick that staff box instead. So now we can select a number of learners. Using the operation drop down, we can select we want to delete, and then we can tick the box to perform the delete action on all 3. We can press OK to confirm, and all of our year 6 learners are now deleted. So considerations when deleting users. Users will be moved to the trash can and not removed from its learning completely. Okay, so the trash can, you can see a button, a logo of it there at the top right hand side. And this means that we can get those learners back, or we can get them users back at any time. Okay, so they're going to sit there until we delete them properly. Okay, so we can get to that trash can by clicking on admin on the top menu bar and selecting trash can. Okay, so when we delete them from the hierarchy, they go into the trash can. We need to delete them from there again for them to be completely deleted. Now, once they're removed from the trash can, the users and any information related to them will be lost. Okay, so as soon as we delete them from the main trash can, any grades are going to be lost, any pictures or files that they might have put onto the platform are going to be lost, and things like that. So just be mindful, particularly with staff members. Now, when staff members have marked something, that's not going to be lost. That's going to stay there because that's a part of the learner's profile. So it's only if we remove the learner that that goes. But it will come that it'll say unknown user. So it'll say the person that's marked this work is an unknown user. Okay, so if you've got somebody that's in the trash can, you'll still see a name, but as soon as you've left them, as soon as you've got rid of them out the trash can, you'll see unknown user. I hope that makes sense. Next up, any users left in the trash can will contribute to your storage allowance. So if you've deleted your users and you've just got them all in the trash can for the past 10 years, you're going to be using a lot of storage space. So delete them from the trash can to reduce storage space as well. Okay, so that's another little hint there, little trick. We can see on the second picture down on the right, this is how the trash can looks. So we can see how many times a learner's logged in or a user's logged in. And therefore we can see, if it's in this case 105, 141 times, they've probably got more information on the platform than the others. Okay, so maybe we need to just be careful of people that have logged in a lot. Okay, so let's take a look at importing our learners. So there's two ways that we can do this. We can do it manually, or we can do it off importing a CSV file. Now, either way, we need to click on admin at the top and click on user and access rights again. So what we'll do is, first of all, on the left-hand side here, we see the same screen as we saw on the previous slide, and we're going to walk you through how to create a user manually. First of all, we need to click Add New User. Once we've clicked Add New User, we can add in any information. Now, the ones with the orange marks around them are mandatory. The others are not. But the prefix at the top will allow us to start doing things like calling our users Mr. Doe and Mrs. Brown and things like that, and make it a bit more professional. We definitely need a username and a password. And after we've confirmed that password, we just make sure that the learner changes it the next time they log in. We can say that it never expires if we want to. And now we need to select the profile. So if it's going to be a student in this case or a staff member, we need to select that. And we need to drop them in to that hierarchy. So in this case, I'm going to put this person into year 6, although I should probably be doing it in the new year. And we always recommend adding an email address in there as well, because down here at the bottom, you can send an email to the user if they have an email address. And that's that. We've added the user. Now, if we want to update users via the CSV file, that's over here on our right-hand side. So we can see on the right, we've got another option saying import users from file. And when we click on import users from file, we get the ability to search for a file, and we'll go through how that needs to be laid out in the next slide. But we can drag and drop the file in, click save, and then we just need to change the symbol on this one here from a semicolon to a colon. Okay, and that's because we have an English system here rather than an American one. From here, it's just a case of matching up the boxes. So again, really simple. We can match up the first name with our forename field, the last name with our surname field, and our username with our student ID field in this case. And we want to make sure that the synchronization box is ticked either on the username or the email address. Okay, so one or the other. Okay, username is usually a good one, because if you've got a brother and sister or someone like that that shares an email address, that might be an issue. Once you've matched up your columns, we come down to role. We see it's on students, so that's cool. We find hierarchy, and now we decide where all our learners on this spreadsheet are going to go. So in this case, these learners are going to go into our year 2, and they're going into our Birch group. So that's it. I've found the hierarchy, I've selected the group, and I press next. It tells me there's going to be 12 new learners and 4 updated, so 4 progressors. And I can click finish. And once I've clicked finished, we confirm the finish, and the learners or the users are then imported. And we can see here a nice overview. 12 have been imported, 4 have been updated, and that's job done. So 2 really easy ways of adding learners. So now let's talk about that sample CSV layout. So when we're uploading a file full of learners, instead of just one at a time, so that right hand side column there, we need it to be in a particular format. So we can see here that my titles along the top, I've got forename, surname, student ID, password and email. Now we don't actually need the password field in there, but I find it easier to specify a password for everybody so that I can tell them what that password is, whether it's, for example, dog, cat, whether it's the name of their group, so birch or oak. And we can basically give them a password and they can then change it if we allow them to on their next login. Okay, so I do like having that password field in there, although it's not mandatory. It's always an idea to have an email address in there where possible. But obviously the only things that we really need are forename, surname and student ID. Okay, so as long as we've got them 3 headers that we can match up into our into the list what we saw in the previous slide, then we should be good to go. And all of these learners, these 17 learners here, will all just be put into our Birch class all at the same time. Okay, so again, really quick and really easy to do. So now let's look at course archiving and creation. Okay, so we've looked at our users, we've looked at how we can delete those users and how we get our new users in there. And now we're looking at our courses. So first of all, the question is, do you use course templates? You can check if you have a template ready to use by following the instruction on the left, the adjacent instruction. I always get that word wrong, I stumble there. And you just look for the green ticks. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to go to Admin, the top menu bar, click on Courses, and then we need to find the course that we want to be creating and see if it's got a green tick next to it. Okay, so in this case we can see an IT and an English course on the left there, and we can see that they've got green ticks on the right hand side of our school name or our organization name. That's how we know that it's a template. If we have a template, we can simply archive our old courses ready for the new ones to be created, and it becomes a lot easier. So to do this, we click on Admin on the top menu bar, we click on Courses, and then we find the course that we want to archive. So in this case, I've ticked the box next to the IT at School course, and as soon as I tick that box next to IT at School, then just above it on the menu bar, I can click Archive. And that's all we have to do. Select the courses. We can do lots of them at the same time if we want. Select the courses and click Archive. Really easy to unarchive them if we make a mistake, so don't worry about that. Just don't press delete. We can undo that as well. Okay, so tick the ones we need, press Archive, job done. If we don't have course templates, then it might be an idea to make them. So we do this by going to the course. We can select Home on the top menu bar, click on the course that we want to copy or to make a template. Then we need to go to the course menu bar that is, and click on More. Now as soon as we click More, we'll get a few other options. One of those will be Settings. And when we click on Settings, we'll see Course Properties and Features. Okay, so we're doing this within the course. When we see Course Properties and Features and that screen comes up, we can scroll right to the bottom and we will see where it says Share as a Template. All we have to do here is tick the radio button that says share with your organisation name. So my organisation, my school is called Dotdale, so it's share with Dotdale. There's a couple of other options under there, just ignore them for the time being and hit save. You've now made that course a template. Okay, so really easy. If we've got a template, we can just archive our old courses, no problem. If we've not got a template, really easy to make the current course into that template. And you only have to do that once, and then next year you can just use that one again. So now we've got our templates, we need to look at how we roll out a course based off the template. Okay, so how we create a new course from that template or from that old course. So this again is quite simple to do. We simply click on courses on the top menu bar. We've got our little green and white plus symbol, and we need to make sure that radio button is in the middle and that the option is based on an existing course or template. We can then hit browse and we can find our course template. So in this case, I'm going to use this history room, but we can see the IT at Schools one there as well. And we'll title the new course. So I'm going to call this history. Oh, nearly made a mistake there. History 21-22. And we'll add a course code so that we can easily identify it in the future, which makes archiving it a lot easier. What am I doing there? There we go. We can select a colour, so any colour that we like, and then we can just press save. So now we've created a course based on our template. It's that simple. So now we have our course, let's look at how we add our new users to the course. So we've got rid of our old users, we've brought in our new ones, we've made our course into a template, and we've created a new course based off that template. So all of our resources from that template course, all the resources and everything, all come over to our new course. Okay, so we don't have to do anything else. We're not starting from scratch. We're literally copying from one year to the next. So let's look at how we add a user to the course manually. This is great when it comes to taster sessions. We simply just click participants on the course menu bar. And under participants, we can see we've got a little add symbol, just like we did with the courses. And when we click on add, we've got a number of ways that we can search. So I'm just going to put a surname in here. We can see that I'm already searching staff because that staff box is ticked. When I click search, I find my user. I can select my user and just say what role they're going to have within the course. So this is a teacher. Click on add, and now my teacher has been added to the course. Really easy. So we can add one person easily, which is great for teachers, but how do we add all of our learners at the same time? Well, this is just as easy. So we use what we call the hierarchy synchronization, and this helps us add groups of users. So to do this, we go to the same place, we go to participants in our course menu bar, and in participants, we're now going to select the next tab along. Okay, so instead of pressing add, we're going to press hierarchy synchronization. Within here, we simply find hierarchy, and the old familiar comes up, so we can select this academic year, we can select the year and the group. So now all of the learners in Birch class will be added to my course. What we can also do though is add multiple groups to the same course. So in this case I can add Elm, I can add Elm, and I can also add any other groups that I need. We can tick the box to create groups from hierarchy. And what the system will do is it will take the learners from each group and put them in their own place, in their own folders. So when we start looking at permissioning and creating resources for our own learners, we can do this separately. So Birch learners can have resources at a different time or different resources than Elm learners. Okay, so we've got both sets of learners on the same course, and by ticking that box there to create course groups for hierarchy, the system automatically groups them for us. Okay, so it saves us a job. And that's it. That's our learners added to the course. So we are finally on the last leg, and we're going to look at some considerations that we need to think about if we're starting a new course from scratch. Okay, and this isn't for everybody. It's just for, I suppose, a few schools. And the main thing we need to consider here is, if we're starting a course from scratch, do we use the planner or do we use the dashboards? So planners are great. I love planners. They're the new thing. And when starting a new year, consider building your course from the planner. It's easier to keep everything together and it's less work for you year on year. That's the bit I like. With dashboards, if you're using dashboards, really just make sure that all your images are still available. All the links point to the new course and not back to the old one. That's a big problem. And basically make sure that any work that needs to be put into the dashboards is put in to give the learners the best experience possible. If you do have any questions, if there is anything that you need to know or understand about the planner compared to the dashboards, do give your key account managers a call. We're always happy to help. We're always happy to walk you through the pros and the cons. The planner is the newer thing. It's the backbone to our platform in many respects, and definitely the easier way to go, and the one that's less to maintain. But we do understand that some organisations do love your dashboards, which is absolutely fine. It's absolutely great if that's what you like to do, but make sure we keep on top of them, make sure they work as expected, because we need the learner, should I say, to have a really good experience. That's all from me. I know I've talked a lot. I know I've talked quickly. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, these resources will be available to you. And obviously, you've got your account managers there. You've got support from our support team. And we're all here to make sure that your start of year, your end of year goes really, really smoothly. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Danny. We don't actually have any questions at the moment, so we'll just hang on another minute. If you do have any questions, then please just pop them in the questions tab and Danny will answer them for you. If not, just to let you know, this webinar was recorded, so we will pop you over an email later this afternoon with a copy of that recording so you can play it back if you need to. But as Danny mentioned, if you do have any questions, please just pop an email to support or your account manager. So we still don't have any questions at the moment, so I think we can just end the webinar. And yeah, if you do have any questions, pop us an email. Is there anything else to add to that, Danny?
No, I think that's covered everything. Yeah, so hope to hear from everyone soon.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for joining today's webinar, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.